From our Chicago studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Samana Siddiqui. Our top story tonight: Palestinian journalist Adil Zurub was killed during an Israeli airstrike on his family home in Rafah, bringing the total number of journalists killed in Gaza to 97. In a series of Israeli airstrikes, at least 42 Palestinians have been killed and many more injured amid escalating international concern. Israeli forces struck in an area previously designated as a safe zone in Rafah. The Israeli military has reported the death of 2 soldiers in a ground assault. According to the latest figures from the Palestinian Health Ministry in Gaza, at least 19,667 people have been killed by Israel since October 7th, and 52,586 people have been wounded. Senator Bernie Sanders has introduced a resolution compelling the State Department to report to Congress about potential human rights violations by Israel in Gaza. The resolution invokes Section 502(b)(c) of the Foreign Assistance Act that enables Congress to seek information on a nation's rights practices. It also prohibits U.S. security aid to nations consistently violating human rights. Requests under this act have privileged status, which enables a floor vote requiring a simple majority for approval. Sanders has emphasized the indiscriminate bombing by the government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, labeling it immoral and in violation of international law. The resolution demands accountability for civilian harm, certification of Israeli forces' conduct, and disclosure of U.S. arms supplied to Israel. It also seeks evaluation of Israel's adherence to international humanitarian law in Gaza. The State Department has been reluctant to comment on reported Israeli rights abuses in Gaza. The U.S. annually provides Israel with over $3 billion in aid, most of which is for military purposes. As well, in November, Congress approved an additional $14 billion in military aid to Israel. Palestine has called for an urgent international investigation following disturbing reports of the Israeli army allegedly burying civilians alive in the courtyard of the Kamal Adwan hospital in northern Gaza. Palestinian Health Minister May Al-Khaila expressed deep concern, citing evidence from citizens, medical personnel, and media sources. She accused the Israeli occupation of forcibly expelling the wounded into harsh weather conditions while attacking medical staff, posing a grave threat to patients' lives. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry demanded the same, characterizing the reported actions as heinous and horrifying crimes. Director General of Gaza's Health Ministry, Munir al-Bursh, condemned the Israeli occupation for converting the hospital into a military base and humiliating both medical staff and the wounded. Facing controversy over defending Palestine, Russian-American writer and journalist Masha Gessen received the Hannah Arendt Prize at a small ceremony this week. About 50 people attended the award ceremony in a small hall in the northwestern German city of Bremen, with tight police security measures. Gessen recently attracted controversy while comparing Gaza in a New Yorker magazine article to the Jewish ghettos in Europe that were once occupied. Criticizing Gessen's views, the Heinrich Böll Foundation, which gives the award, decided not to attend the ceremony. Israeli settlers assault worshippers at Ibrahimi Mosque. Details after the break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Israeli settlers assaulted Palestinian worshippers in the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron city, south of the occupied West Bank, on Monday evening. Palestinian news agency Wafa reports that the illegal settlers used pepper spray to attack the worshippers, resulting in suffocation and burns. Activists posted videos on their social media accounts showing Palestinian worshippers coughing and lying on the ground. Wafa also reports that the Israeli army protected the settlers during their assault. After the Ramadan 1994 massacre of 29 Palestinian worshippers inside the mosque by American-born Israeli settler Baruch Goldstein, Israeli authorities divided the mosque complex between Muslim and Jewish worshippers. Hebron is home to roughly 160,000 Palestinian Muslims and about 500 illegal Jewish settlers. The U.S. has expressed deep concern over the violent assault on Mustafa al-Kharouf. He is a photojournalist from Turkey's Anadolu news agency who was attacked by Israeli soldiers in East Jerusalem. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller commented on video footage showing use of force against al-Kharouf. He says the incident calls for an investigation and emphasizes the need for accountability of those found responsible. The U.S. expects military forces worldwide to take appropriate action when their personnel violate international humanitarian law. The incident occurred during Friday prayers in the Wadi al-Jawz neighborhood near Al-Aqsa Mosque amid ongoing Israeli army restrictions. The video captured an Israeli soldier striking al-Kharouf with a rifle and subjecting him to a severe beating, including blows to the head. Al-Kharouf was taken to a hospital for treatment. Israeli authorities suspended the police officers involved. However, Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir expressed his intention to reinstate the officers responsible. Several Palestinians held by Israeli forces in Gaza have died inside a detention center in southern Israel. Israeli newspaper Haaretz reports that hundreds of Palestinian prisoners were held inside a detention center in Beersheba for several weeks. They were held in fenced compounds, blindfolded and handcuffed for most of the day. The circumstances of their deaths remain unclear, and an investigation has been launched. There was no immediate comment from Israeli authorities on the report. House Democrats are calling for Supreme Court Associate Justice Clarence Thomas to recuse himself from the pending case involving former President Donald Trump. They argue that Thomas's wife, Ginny Thomas, actively participated in efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, making it questionable for Thomas to remain impartial. In a letter spearheaded by Hank Johnson and signed by 7 other Democrats, they highlight Ginny Thomas's attendance at the pro-Trump rally before the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Special counsel Jack Smith has requested the Supreme Court's ruling on Trump's immunity claim as a sitting president during the alleged criminal misconduct. Democrats say Thomas should not participate in a case where his wife played such a significant role. They have called on Thomas to do the honorable thing and recuse himself to uphold the integrity of the Supreme Court's code of conduct. The number of people experiencing homelessness in the U.S. has skyrocketed by 12%, reaching an unprecedented high. That's according to new data from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. More than 650,000 people found themselves without shelter during a single night in January, marking the largest number recorded since data collection began in 2007. The surge in homelessness is primarily attributed to first-time homeless people and made worse by the depletion of pandemic-era funds as well as soaring rents. The data described rental housing costs as extraordinarily challenging in the year leading up to the latest count. Another concerning trend is that about 28% of the homeless population consists of families with children. That number rose by more than 25,000 people from 2022 to 2023, ending a declining trend since 2012. Former President Donald Trump's supporters seem unfazed by his comment that he would love to be a dictator for a day if re-elected. They see it as a taunt toward his critics or see it as advocating for government reforms. While some view it as a joke to provoke rivals, others believe the U.S. system needs an overhaul. Shelley Temple, a 2016 Trump campaign worker, considers Trump a leader who respects the Constitution and values checks and balances. But Cornell University sociology professor Mabel Berezin warns against dismissing Trump's statements, emphasizing that he often speaks candidly, even in jest. UK human rights group Cage is celebrating its 20th anniversary by rebranding as Cage International. The organization was initially formed to advocate for Guantanamo Bay detainees. Its leaders say it is now committed to ending global oppression in the name of the war on terror. Managing Director Mohammed Rabbani underscores the organization's resilience and its role in defending justice and rights in the face of anti-terrorism laws. Cage International plans to forge global alliances, amplify its impact, and adopt a new visual identity and website. In response to the ongoing crisis in Gaza, Cage International is expanding its efforts to support the cause of Palestinian liberation in the UK and the EU. New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed a groundbreaking bill into law this week, mandating that the state's prisons provide halal and kosher food options to inmates and their visitors. Spearheaded by State Senator Jessica Ramos of Queens and Brooklyn Assemblyman Simcha Eichenstein, the legislation compels prisons to offer food choices that align with inmates' religious dietary requirements. These options will be made available in prison commissaries and vending machines within visitor areas. An additional stipulation stresses that the cost of these specialized foods must be comparable to the standard offerings. The bill also raises concerns about some prisons failing to meet the dietary restrictions necessary for people adhering to strict religious observances. The law is slated to take effect in 60 days, a move hailed by Ramos, who said denying Jewish people in prison access to kosher foods is an added and targeted punishment. She expressed gratitude to local rabbis and faith leaders for their support and emphasized the importance of extending such access to public schools. That's all from our Chicago studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Salam and good night.